that we are talking about being positive all the time or just thinking positively, which is nothing that we explain or teach in positive psychology. Positive psychology, as I talked in the previous session, is just a new look, a new way of asking questions, a new direction of psychology. Instead of being focused all the time in understanding disease and helping people come out from the bottom to the average, how do we understand potential and how do we reach our own heights in regards to a better life? So if we're living just an okay marriage, why does beautiful marriages, what do they do? And how can we bring that to our own marriage? If we are learning, if our kids are learning in an average way, how can we find the potential for them to really learn? If we're living a normal life, how can we really live the life we deserve and we want? A happier life, a more positive life, a more resilient life, and things like that. So that's what I do for the past 10 years. And I have the privilege and the honor to have become the president, the CEO of Wholebeing Institute in Brazil. I founded Wholebeing Institute. Today I'm a partner of Mega McDonald, and I translated the certificate that you guys might wanting to know more about. I translated to Portuguese. I teach in Brazil, in Portugal, and in the US, and I am participating in this program as the main teacher for the live events, the live meetings we're going to have. But before I move on and before I start talking non-stop of this topic that I love so much, let me ask you guys a question. How many times in a normal day, in an average day, yeah, you, Marilyn, or you, Lila, Sheila, every one of you, how many times during the day do you walk by people? It might be somebody at home, your neighbors, somebody that you see in the elevator, or going to walking in the mall or in the supermarket or getting inside the office. How many times do you pass by people? You look at them and say, oh, good morning, how are you? And you already start moving forward towards your destination. You don't really care about it. You didn't really ask because you want to hear an answer. I don't know about you, but sometimes if you ask this question and the person tells you, oh, Lila, I'm so happy you asked me this question. I was crazy to tell somebody how I am at this moment. Probably we will feel a little bit anxious because, you know, I have to pick up my kids at school. I have some work to do. I have some reports to finish. Usually we just ask this question out of habituality. And the worst part is that usually we just say, we're okay, or we're not so bad, just in an habitual way without really stopping to see and to feel and to listen how we are, or really asking people with the intent of really engaging in a conversation and learning something from them. Do you agree with me that we do this all the time? I had the privilege to study positive psychology with Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar at Kripalu in the US. And he changed the way I see things in a very profound way. And we created a very beautiful connection because of it. Because I remember I used to walk inside his class. It was a class with 240 or 200 something students. I was that student that would sit right in front of him. There was the first chairs. I would sit in front of the chairs in the ground just to be very close. And I remember I would get inside the room and he would come to me and say, good morning, Hiko, how are you? And then he would put his hands in my shoulder. He would look at me in the eyes and he would say, really? And I think he looked at me for 5, maybe 10 seconds. I can't tell. But on those 5 or 10 seconds, I would feel and I would understand something about myself that in the craziness of just achieving and getting things done and running after things, I would not stop. I had not stopped to listen or to ask. And on those few seconds, I would feel all of those emotions and I would respond to him, and maybe together we would lose 25 seconds of our days, but I would respond to him and we would create a bond. I would understand myself better, and I believe you can understand, or you can imagine the level of bond and connection that this very short and simple interactions generated in our relationships. You will find out when you dive deep in positive psychology that relationships are the base, the keystone of a happier life. Every culture, every study shows that the happier people and the most healthy people across the globe are the people more capable of building a positive relationship with themselves and others. And I'm not here asking you guys to, every time now, to everybody you see in the streets, to ask this question, how are you really? Because it's going to be very boring, very annoying. You won't be able to do it, and people will get very irritated. But how would your life change today if you could, from today on, choose 2, maybe 3 people to ask this question, giving yourself 1 minute to look in the eyes and to listen? Who would those people be? Who are the people more important to you that if you did stop to ask this question, you would generate a more engaging and powerful relationship that today, in the running around of our lives, in the automatic way most of us live, we don't stop to do it. I would even say, if you can, maybe you can start asking this question to yourself in the morning. How am I really? And if you have seen the previous live events that we did here with Ubiquity, we also explain the SPIRE module of whole person well-being, which help us to really see ourselves in our complexity. It's not I am well or I'm not so well, because what do we do? What type of actions do we generate with something so broad? We can look at ourselves in all the dimensions of our well-being, spiritually, intellectually, relationship, physically, emotionally. How are we in all these dimensions? And what can we do in a practical way to really leverage our well-being in that day? So that's just an invitation for you to think about your daily interactions. But now let's talk about positivity. When you came to this event, when you heard about this meeting, what did you guys think about it? When we talk about the importance of positivity, what came to your mind? If you want to type here in the chat, what do you think when we talk about positivity? What comes to your mind? Why? What's your expectations being here, for example? Just, you can type here in the chat so we can start our conversation today. And thank you so much, Maytech, for remembering me to record. Okay, and I have done this later on in my life. I must have missed a lot in the past, so some people are very warm-hearted. What else? See that Lila and Sheila are typing. Beautiful. Consciously choosing to respond with kindness instead of reacting out unconsciously, patterns that do not serve. Beautiful. Like, all of us have an automatic way to respond to life, and how can we really stop and choose kindness, choose something that is better. Expand on my work that rotates around retreats. Beautiful. Learning more about how to remember their options when I am in default mode. Beautiful. Usually our default mode is towards a negativity bias. So if we really can stop and choose, perfect. Being positive is being hopeful and optimistic, seeing hardships and opportunities, perfect. So all of us have pretty good and deep understanding of how positivity means to you and how can we leverage that. I just read a book that I don't know if you heard about this book, is Tuesdays with Morrie. It's an amazing, life-changing book. And on this book, he tells his final message is that giving is living. So how can we really give ourselves towards a better life? But before I move on talking about what the science has to say about positivity, I would like to give you a test, a live test online that I'm sure none of you guys expected you are going to take today. We're going to see now if you guys have or have not focused. I want to test if this group or you individually, if you guys are capable of focusing. So the guys from Ubiquity have not, they did not know I was going to do this test. Otherwise, probably they would invite somebody else to do this event, because nobody would like to put you in some pressure now, but I will give you a test. And I want you guys to pay a lot of attention now on the video I'm going to play. This video starts with a question. Please pay fully attention, put all your objects aside, your notepad, your mobile phone, pay very good attention to the video, because it's a very difficult test, and I hope you guys can get the answer at the end. So my invitation to you is watch the video, pay a very close attention to what I'm showing, read the question that starts at the beginning, and then at the end, I will ask you guys if you were capable of finding the answer. Is everybody ready to do it? Everybody okay to do it? I can only see now Sheila, Lila, you guys okay to start? Can you see my image, my screen? Perfect. So let's go. All attentions in the video, read the question, try to come up with the answer at the end. Let's go. Guys, I'm so sorry. My video, it's in Portuguese, so I will ask you guys the question. The question is, how many times the players in white passes the ball amongst themselves? All right? How many times the players in white passes the ball amongst themselves? Let's do it. All right, if you can now please type in the chat. Don't be anxious, don't be nervous, just in the chat, just a number. How many times did you count? How many times the players in white passed the ball amongst themselves? 13? Just a number. 11, 16, 13, 10. All right, you guys were focused, but not really. Between 10 to 16, right? So a few, quite a different range of answers here. Let me ask you guys a second question. Just respond with a yes or with a no. Did you guys see anything unusual? Anything that perhaps should not be there in the video? Just yes or no. Yes. No, Anna didn't see it. Lila saw it. Diane didn't, so pretty much half and half so far. Yep, Jean already responded. No, so we look, it looks like it's 50-50. 50% of people saw it. Sheila have seen it before, so it doesn't count. So we are about 50-50, right? Lila, have you seen it? Did you see the something? Okay. Anna didn't. All right. So it's nice that I can see your face, Anna, because I would like to see your reaction now that I'm going to show the video again. So half the people in the room did not see anything unusual. So I am assuming that Anna and Diane and Natalie, they did not see a gorilla, right? Anna, you didn't see a gorilla, right? Good. And let me tell you why you didn't see the gorilla. Because it's a very tiny, very small gorilla, and it goes very fast on the screen. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the video again. Forget about the balls, forget about the players in white. Your only objective now is to find this very difficult to see gorilla, all right? And I will ask again, if you guys that did not see the gorilla before can see it this time. So let me show the video again. And just a note here before you guys get mad at me. I promise you it is the same video, all right? So let's do it. Did you see it now, Anna? Not tiny, not small. And if there's one thing he's not doing, it's rushing. He's very calm and he's actually provoking you in the middle of the screen. If anybody didn't see the gorilla this time, yes, we need to talk. But if you did, we guys are all right. You know, what does that mean? It's funny because I used to play this video to big audiences in big congress, in those big spaces, and somebody would come in the line to talk to me at the end of the presentation and would say, "Oh, you know, Professor, I was very far away, or there was somebody with a big hair in front of me, so I couldn't really see it. But I have been playing this video online, like I did with you guys, for the past 2.5 years, where you guys are 30, 40 centimeters from the screen, and we still have the majority usually of people do not see it. Usually it's about 60% of people do not see the gorilla in the first time. I never had anybody that didn't see the second time, but in the first time, about 60 to sometimes 70% of people don't see it. What does that mean? Why am I, and just a note, I really don't remember how many times the players in white passes the ball, because this is not the purpose of the exercise, but I think it's about 15 to 16 times. So what does that mean? We're here talking about positivity. What does that mean? Why did I show this video? Why focus? It's important, or in a different way, how does focus has to do with positivity or happiness? What do you guys think? You can type in the chat or activate your mic if you want to, the way you prefer. Somebody? Anybody? I think Sheila is typing. Okay. Our life becomes what we focus on. Beautiful, Sue. Beautiful. We live what we focus on. What we believe and expect is what we see. If we expect happiness and positivity, we will see those. Perfect. What I focus on is what I remember and I'm living with. We are not paying enough attention. Perfect question. Listen, what did I do to induce you to count balls and not see the gorilla? I asked a question, right? So according to Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, the question that we ask defines what we have to search for, which by effect defines our experience. We do believe, or would like to believe, that when we see life, when we perceive life with our senses, we perceive the whole, we see it all. We see reality as is. How many here have ever had a very long conversation or discussion with a colleague, with a partner, with a kid, with somebody, because you are seeing reality, and the other person probably it's completely out of his mind because he's seeing something completely different. We do tend to believe that we see reality as a whole, the complete scenario. But the thing is, our brain is a very, very, very efficient machine. And because it's so efficient, it consumes too much energy. Our brain consumes about 20-25% of our energy. If you don't know, we lose weight when we're sleeping because our brain is consuming energy all the time. And our brain has only 2% of the body's mass. So it's very tiny and very powerful. It uses a lot of energy. So one way for our brain to save up energy that is very necessary for him or for it, it's by concentrating, by focusing the attention. So we do believe we see it all, but do you imagine how much or what is the percentage of the reality that our brain ignores, that do not come to your consciousness? And I showed you the gorilla was in the middle of the screen, right in front of you. And in this group, half the people did not see it. Neuroscience, some studies propose that we don't bring to your consciousness about 97 to 98% of reality. We ignore all of it. We just bring to your consciousness 2%. And how does our brain decide what is the aspect of reality that he needs? Our brain decides it by the question that we ask ourselves. When I ask you guys the question, how many times the players in ball pass the ball, our brain focuses its attention. Our eyes probably saw a blur, but it's not needed to answer the question that I'm asking myself. It's not relevant. So our brain ignores it. And it brings to our consciousness only the information that is needed to respond to the question that we're asking ourselves. So if we're still asking ourselves why our kid is so undisciplined, what is the type of information I bring to my brain? If I look at the same kid and ask, how is it possible that this kid is so loving? We're going to bring different types of information. And the question that I'm going to ask you now, that's a very important question, is usually, what are the types of questions we ask ourselves? The good or the bad? Usually when you go to bed at night, Sheila, what is normal? To go to bed remembering a very nice lunch you had with a friend, or a nice conversation, a 3-minute conversation you had with a family member by phone, or you go to bed remembering the bad report you just delivered in the company, or the gigantic to-do list that you have to do the next day, or the time in the day that you were not very patient with your kid. Usually, we tend to focus a lot of our energy on the negative. We call this the negativity bias. All of us live this. There's an evolutionary reason for this negativity bias. It's genetically ingrained in us and in our culture, in our society. Usually you're called, if your boss leaves you a little note in your desk, I need to see you. Do you feel, oh my God, today is my promotion? Or do you feel, what have I done? And you go very anxious to your boss. If your partner calls you and tells you on the phone, you know, tonight we need to talk, what do you feel? Oh, I'm going to get a new diamond ring, or our relationship is coming to an end. We tend to focus on the negative all the time. And that is important. That is part of our biological need to survive. Our brain is searching for danger, searching for difficulty. It's part of it. But what science didn't understand before positive psychology, all the research in psychology was very focused on understanding why do we have this negativity bias? Why or how the negative, just to say, to use a classification, why the negative emotions are so powerful? So we know, why do we feel fear, anger? Why do we feel hate? Even if you guys are psychologists, if you have studied the evolutionary stages of a child, it's all about negative emotions. It starts with, I don't know the word in English, anguish, and then goes to fear, and then goes to anger. So it's all about the negative. And why? Because the negative, or the bad, the negative, is stronger than the positive, is stronger than the good. Have any of you saw this, that Disney or Pixar cartoon called, I forgot the name in English now. There's a cartoon that it's a children's movie about the forming of memories. There's the brain of the little girl with all the emotions in her brain. I forgot the name of the movie. But the negative is like Teflon, is like a Velcro. It glues on us. If you have a bad message in our job, we keep that for a long time. The positive is very passing. We don't see it, we don't feel it, we don't savor it. When we look to our history, we have a lot of good things, but it's very common for us to create our habitual way of thinking based on the negative, on the sufferings, on the difficult times that we've lived. So usually, try to think, if you guys have children, if they come back home with the school report and they have 20 beautiful grades, but one very below average, what is the first grade you see? Usually in Brazil, we use blue color or red color. So if the grade is red, that's the first one that comes to mind. The media knows that. All the news tend to be very bloody, very negative, because it connects to us, it glues, it brings it towards our attention. So we are hardwired for the negative. And when we talk about positivity, the idea here, or the intent of positive psychology, it's not, and it has never been, and it's never will be, about ignoring the negative and living a life like Pollyanna. Oh, now everything is perfect, and I'm going to think positively towards the rest of my life. The worst thing you can do to your overall happiness is to think or to pretend that things are positive when they are in shambles. The best thing you can do is, how can I live reality as it is and understand my strengths and understand my capacity towards making a movement, and see the people around me that can help me, and search for help and learn from the past moments I've been to situations as hard as this, and I've been able to move forward. What positive psychology teaches us, that it's never will be about ignoring the bad, but we have to find a way to understand that the whole is much bigger than the bad that we're facing. There's a negative part, yes, and there's a lot more. So how do we learn? By focusing our attention to understand the bad, deal with it, and see there is more. I'm not saying that by doing this, you are going to live a beautiful, perpetual, happy life and not leave the negative emotions, because that's not part of the deal. I might be grieving somebody that I just have lost, and I should be there. And when I see the positive around me, it's not, oh, now I'm not grieving anymore because I see the positive. No, I am suffering very deeply. And I know that I have somebody that I can call, that at least for 30 seconds will give me a little bit of attention and good feeling. I know that even though that I'm suffering and crying, I can walk in nature and breathe very deeply. And maybe in a 24-hour terrible day, I can have 2 minutes of peace. And once I start doing this, seeing that there's more, there are choices, it's not that the negative goes away, but I start building within myself the self capacity, not to change my reality, not to change the world, but I build that self capacity that I can somehow mold my day towards a better day. In the say of Maria Sirao, one of the teachers of Wholebeing Institute and of this course, she says that every day of our lives, there's a little bit or a lot of hell, and a little bit or a lot of a nice little pond where we can sit and relax and see beauty every day. So building positivity is building within us the capacity of living sometimes the hell and being able to touch the pond, even if for only 1 minute every day. Our darkest days, and I know you guys can think about situations like this, our darkest moments our darkest days have a better moment. So if we learn how to focus our attention on seeing those things, we learn to, little by little, create more positivity. And why that is important? Because, you know, if anybody here is a psychologist, we know that when we feel a negative emotion, our attention shrinkens, our attention is focused. So think about that. You go to a trip, you and your spouse, you go to a trip to the savannah, to Africa, and you are walking the savannah, and all of a sudden you see a lion. What do you feel? Fear. I hope you feel fear. Your heart starts pumping, your breathing is very shallow, your blood is going to your legs and your arms so you can fight, or, I hope you do it, run from the lion. So our attention is focused on the object of fear, on the lion, which is good. Imagine if I'm holding my kid's hand, I see a lion in front of me, and I start searching for parakeets or birds in the sky. Thankfully, we focus our attention when we're feeling a negative emotion. But what we have learned with positive psychology is that when I am feeling a positive emotion, joy, generosity, gratitude, when I'm feeling a positive emotion, my focus expands. I see more. In other words, I throw in the bin the dictatorship of the or, and I embrace the beauty of the end. I might be inside my house because of the pandemic, and I can choose to be a good father. I can be having a very difficult time being a teacher in a world that I cannot travel to do my keynotes anymore, and decide to study how to use Zoom to do a better presentation. I can be very sad, and I can look at my window and see the sun, and for 2 seconds, enjoy the beauty of it. So it's about creating this self-capacity of seeing the whole. And when we see the whole, we become more creative. We see that there are choices. Sometimes have any one of you ever felt trapped in an emotion? When you are depressed, for example, that's pretty much what you feel. There's no way out. There's nobody to help me. Nothing will change. When you learn how to bring a little bit of more positivity to your life, you learn that my day is going to be terrible, and I can call that dear friend and cry on the phone, so I know he's going to be there to listen to me. I can remember that when I am feeling sad, my body is biologically asking me to bond to people. So how can I bring somebody and give a hug and ask for comfort? How can I see, by seeing more, I become more creative and I find better answers to deal with the difficult moment, which doesn't mean in any way that I'm not going to be feeling those negative emotions anymore. No, I will live life as it is. I like to think in this way. Nobody lives in a constant line, or maybe the dead and the psychopaths do. But most of us, we have the ups and the downs of life. All of us have the ups and the downs. The sad story is that many of us, because of our habitual way of thinking and the automatic way we live, we have the ups and downs. And every time when we look back, we are leveled. We are in the same plateau. What we learn by practicing the science of positivity and the science of positive psychology is that I can live the ups and downs of lives, and I can learn that I'm growing. I can see that I am going further. I am more capable now on a grief moment to see more. I am more capable now on the days that I am very bad-tempered, and I am sometimes very bad-tempered. I can learn to make a better choice. Instead of trying to pretend to be in a good temper and try to send these emotions away and play with my kids, I might decide that today is not a day to play with my kids because I have no patience at all. So I can make a better choice. Today I want to walk alone on nature, to breathe more deeply. I can, instead of call my mom, because if I am in a bad mood, if I call my mom, we're going to fight. I can call my yoga instructor and ask her to do a soft meditation with me. We can make better choices despite the emotions we're feeling. Does that make sense? Any insights or comments so far, please? Anything? So before we go, I know I have less than 15 minutes, and last time I stayed more than the time I had. There's a teacher here. In the US, when law enforcement are teaching a class, a person will break in and do something and leave. The student are then asked a question about. Yeah, and there are some studies that talk about some biases that we have when we are witnesses in cases. For example, just so you know, if you are seeing a potential suspect being interviewed and the camera is facing him right in front of him, and then you saw an interview with the potential criminal being interviewed by the side, so you see him and the interviewer, usually when we see the person interviewed face on, we tend to believe he's guilty. While when we see two people talking, we don't have the same tendency. So there are biases on the way we see things and talk. There are even gender biases that it's pretty common too. Like we tend to bond more easily to not just gender, but race as well. So there are some studies about that. So it's all related to focus. What is the question I'm asking? If I'm feeling that, oh, this person is not okay, or this comment is not okay, I can choose to push that aside, or I can push to embrace and ask more questions. I might not change my mind, but I might learn something different. So I don't know if I answered this question, but that's what I felt about it. But before I go in just 10 minutes I have, let me give you an exercise that science has shown again and again and again that it can help us move towards a more positive life. Even have shown that over time, it actually changes our brain if we do it. It's the practice of gratitude. So before we move any further, let me explain you something. It's not that hashtag gratitude when you take a photo of a cup of coffee, or that gratitude as an email signature, or nothing of this this self-help thing that is everywhere now. It's not about that. Gratitude as a definition, as a word, it's pretty nice, but harmless. We're talking about gratitude as a heartfelt sense, as something that you really feel. So let me tell you my story with this exercise. I'm going to explain the exercise and tell you my story with it. I used to be a lawyer, a very well-paid director in a very big company. I left everything aside to come to live with my wife, and she was expecting her first son. And I decided to study a science that it's nicknamed the science of happiness. So everybody believes it's self-help. So everyone in my family and everywhere thought that I was completely crazy. Even my wife, she doesn't tell us anybody that, but she thought that too. So I was in a very major career change, trying to find myself in this new position. And I went to do this certificate that we're talking about here at Ubiquity in the USA. I was having a lunch with Dr. Taubin Shahar. I told him my difficulties, my story, how hard it was to grasp the meaning of my life again after I had left the corporate job. And he told me, Henrique, Rico, I want you to practice a new exercise starting today. And that's what I want you guys to do, or that's what I'm inviting you guys to do. For the next 30 days, every day, preferably at the same time, in the same place, like before you go to bed or when you wake up in the morning, you will think about 3 things that went well in your day. 3 things that you're grateful for. And it cannot be something general. It has to be something that you really lived, specific. So it's not about, oh, I'm going to be grateful because I have a roof. No, did you feel something that connected you with that? So for example, it's raining very heavily outside, and then I see people in the rain, cold, and I look at my roof and say, oh, thanks God, I have a roof. Yes, that's something for you to be grateful for. It has to be something that you lived in a day. And it's not just to think about it. You have to relive the emotion. So for example, if I'm going to be grateful because of my kid, I have to remember a moment in the day that he hugged me. And I will close my eyes and try to feel his hug, his arms around me. I'll try to smell him and listen to his voice, because my brain is a little bit strange. He confuses the experience I lived with the experience I'm thinking or remembering. So I will float my body with substances that will make me feel the same emotion I felt when he was hugging me. So you have to relive the experience, and that will take you 10 seconds. So think about 3 things you're grateful for, relive that, and then write down in a piece of paper, in a colorful post-it, wherever you want to do it. So that was my exercise. That's the exercise I'm asking you to do. But let me tell you my story. When I was in the airplane coming back from Boston to the US, to São Paulo in Brazil, I confess to you that I had drunk probably 5 glasses of wine. And you know, the glasses of wine in airplanes are quite big. And I was desperate. I was thinking to myself, how do I explain Manu, my wife, that I left my corporate job, I left my bonuses, I left all the money I used to get to study a science that nobody believes now in Brazil. Now we do, but before they didn't. Nobody believes it's a science. And I spend a lot of money in dollars, because dollars in Brazil is very expensive. I went to the US to spend many days to study with a guy from Harvard. And the only tip he gives me is to be thankful for 3 things every day. I was thinking to myself, this cannot be real. This cannot be relevant. Surely people misled me to this course, because this is probably self-help. It's not going to change my life. Of course it won't. I was a lawyer. I had 2 master's degree in law. So it was too soft, too simple. But then I was traveling. I didn't sleep the whole flight. When the airplane was landing in São Paulo, I had a beautiful insight. I say, I know what I'm going to tell Manu. I'm going to tell Manu that positive psychology is like one of those religious cults that I cannot talk about it. So I came home and she said, oh, how was the course? What did you learn? I'm so sorry. Positive psychology, you cannot tell anyone. You have to do it yourself. So that was my way of not telling what I had learned. But I used to be very stubborn, and I had spent a lot of money. So I decided to do the exercise. So let me tell you how it was to me. The first week doing the exercise, it felt like something meaningless. It felt strange, and it was very difficult because I could not think about 3 things to be grateful for. When I did find those 3 things, there was a message in my brain, very loud, saying, this is too small. What a waste of time. Why are you going to be grateful because your mother-in-law made a beautiful dinner tonight? It's just your mother-in-law cooking dinner. What's the big deal? So my brain would try to negate this as something important. It was difficult and I was stubborn. So the next week, the second week, I kept on doing. And I confess to you that it was still meaningless. It was still strange. I thought that it was worthless, but I could think about 7, sometimes 9 things to be grateful for. It was easier to find those little moments. The third week doing the exercise changed completely the way I saw my life and the trajectory of my life. It made me decide to do a master's degree in positive psychology. It made me decide to translate 10 months of course to Portuguese and to really dive deep in this study. I was driving to work. I live in the ocean in Brazil, and I work. I have an office about an hour from here in the capital. So I have to go up the hill to the capital of my state. I do this. I drive on this road every day. It's the most common thing I ever do. And what do I see when I drive on this road? I see traffic, trucks, accidents, a lot of fog because I am in the ocean. So there's a lot of fog. There's a toll that is very expensive. And usually when I'm driving this road, I am listening to the news, bad news, and I'm looking at my watch. I'm going to be late to the meeting. Usually that's what I see. Isn't it what we usually see going to work? The same thing again and again and again. On this third week doing the exercise, the gratitude exercise, I was seeing exactly the same things. Traffic, fog, the expensive toll. I am going to be late for sure, but for some reason, I don't know why, I look at my right and I saw a tree called Ipê Amarelo. Ipê Amarelo is a very, 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 very common tree in Brazil that the leaves goes down and it becomes covered with yellow flowers. So it's a completely beautiful yellow tree. It's common, it's there everywhere. If I've been driving in this road for 10 years, that tree was there for 10 years. But for some reason, when I saw this tree on my right, I look at the left and I saw the biggest continuous area of Atlantic rainforest in Brazil, which is where I live, covered in yellow. And then at the exact same instant, I heard a message. Don't forget to be grateful for being able to go to work in a road like this. I stopped my car and I felt that what was happening in my brain was what we learn in neuroscience, that is neuroplasticity. My brain was changing. My brain knew, remember that the brain wants to save energy. So my brain knew that at night, I would start asking him difficult questions. Was there something to be grateful for today? And he would work hard to find those answers. So he decided, you know, this is too much energy. Instead of trying to show him at the end of the day what was good, let me show him while it happens. In other words, imagine you go to the gym every day and just lift weights with your left arm. Your left arm, which is the neural connections that see the negative, the difficulties in life, it's very strong, very powerful. The right arm, because you don't exercise, is very short, soft. There's no connection there. So we are looking for the bad, the negative, but we are not really paying attention to the good. When you practice gratitude in the way I showed, not hashtag this and that, but really practice, you start somehow to lift weights with your right arm. So you start to build a stronger neural connection. And that really can be seen in labs. So when we film, when we monitor brain of people, we see the brain changing over time. You start to make stronger connections that also looks for the good. Don't worry, you're never going to become a Pollyanna, because biologically you will always be searching for the negative, but you start to bring to your brain the end. I am going to be late. The traffic is terrible. I hate to drive in the middle of all these trucks in a foggy day like this, but I cannot anymore go to work without also realizing, oh my God, I have such a privilege to be able to drive in a road that many people in Brazil spend years just planning a trip to drive once just to have the pleasure to be in a place as beautiful as the place I am. So it's this idea of practicing in order to prepare your brain and train your brain to embrace the end and see it all. So I am listening to bad news, I am seeing trucks, I'm going to be late to the meeting, and I'm also more capable of enjoying and appreciating the good that is there all the time. Does that make sense? Guys, I could stay with you for probably more 7 hours. I just love this science. I love this study. I love to talk about this, about positive psychology. If you want to know more about the whole idea of the certificate in Wholebeing Positive Psychology, Maytech is putting the link here, which is the course that I teach together with Megan McDonough, Maria Sirra, Linda Wallace, and other invited teachers. The whole idea behind this program is how do we learn the science, but not just by adding more knowledge. How do we learn the science by, through 9 months, through the ups and downs of life, really, really practicing it in a way to transform your life in order to prepare you to use, like if you are a facilitator or a coach and want to use positive psychology, you will be much more capable of using it because you first have practiced and learned in yourself. So that's what we do in this 9 months program. I know I don't have more time left to talk to you guys, so I want you to know that I am at your disposal at any time. I'm going to write down here my email. So if anybody wants to know anything about the course or wants to make an appointment to discuss or talk or asking questions about the course, please, this is my email, henrique@wbibrazil.com. I am 100% at your disposal. I love what I do, and I would love to be with you guys in the next cohort of the Wholebeing Positive Psychology that starts now in September. I hope you guys have a beautiful Thursday, a beautiful Friday, and an amazing weekend. And I really hope to be able to be with you in the next cohort of this course or in any cohort when you're ready to say yes to this transformational science in your life. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane, Sheila.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.